As you learned from the previous lesson, if I give you one of these, it's easy to find the rest. So let's do that right now. You are 57 degrees, which means either unmute yourself and type it out in the chat. Which other ones are 57 degrees?
The vertical angle.
Huh?
The vertical angles.
So that would make 4. So measure of angle 2 is measure to angle 4. What else? What other 2?
5. 7.
And those are all equal to 57 degrees. And the reason why that's the case is, yes, 2, let me get it, 2 and 4 are vertical, so they're the same. 4 and 7 would be alternate interior. I realized that the video that I sent you or had you watch, I misspoke a couple times. These are the 4 and 7 are the alternate interior angles, and I think I accidentally called them alternate exterior. Either that, or I called 2 and 5, which are supposed to be alternate exterior, I might have accidentally called them interior. Either way, 2 and 4 are the same, and 4 and 7 are the same, and 7 and 5 are the same, which means they're all the same. What would the other 4 be? While I write this out. You just subtract by 180. 123, Santiago said in the chat, I didn't see. Yeah. So with these types of problems, they're super easy. Either they add up to, well, if it's parallel lines, which these are, and we know that they're a parallel line because of that John and that John right there. And if you have a transversal cutting it, you're going to get 8 angles. 4 of them are going to be equal to each other. The other 4 are also going to be equal to each other. And if you have the one, the way you find the other is you subtract it from 180. So there you have it. Good job, Gucci Gang. Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. Oh, well, it's a good thing I'm wearing my slope-sitting suit. Oh, the internet, you are chock full of wonder and joy. And I don't know why I found that so funny. I thought at first it was an Adidas slope-sitting suit, but it's a generic brand. So we don't even know what the 2 lines are. So she did what she needed to do, and she saved a few dollars. Fashion trend indeed. Right. What are we talking about today? Something that you already know so well, slope. In case you forgot, in case you were living under a rock for the last year and a half of your life, slope determines how steep a line is. The larger the digit, the steeper the slope. A positive digit means up and to the right. A positive slope means up and to the right. A negative slope means up and to the left or down and to the right, however you want to view it. This is an example of slope. As you know, it's rise over run. What you may also remember is the good old slope formula here, which is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. We've done slope. We've used slope, I believe, this year in chapter 0, and we may have done it in chapter 1, but I don't remember. TBH, Camilla, TBH. So, drop my stylus. Oh no, my stylus. Talking about style, fashion. Okay. You know what slope is. But again, just in case, let's put one more view on my YouTube, get me towards my goal of becoming a world famous YouTuber. All right, my job is to find the slope of the line. The slope is rise over run, so I need to pick 2 points. As you can see, I don't have any points, so I have to make them up where they obviously are. So you look like you should be a point, and you look like you should be a point. Since this line is going up and to the right, it's a positive slope, so I'm going to make a note of that. if I go from this point to this point, I rise 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 4. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are both even numbers, so I know positive 4 over 6 simplifies to positive 2 over 3. That's right, Mr. Perich. We know what our slopes is. We know exactly what our slopes is. So, just type them out in the chat. I'll give you a 30-second head start. Tell me what each are. I realize, oh, my bad. I realize that maybe you have to like really look up and squint. But if you can simplify it, simplify it. 3 might be a bit of a challenge, but I want to see if you can do 3. Okay, so Santiago, for it's negative. So what would -1 simplify to? Did I accidentally just give away the answer? I think I accidentally gave away the answer. Rise 5, run 5, it's -1. I think I did. I don't know. I'll rewind that. Just kidding. Ooh, 2. Ooh, 2 is a trick problem. Does anybody remember the answer to 2? Does anybody remember the answer to 2? I will not accept 4 over 0. I'm sorry.
Undefined?
Undefined. I have a little song to help you remember. Up and down is undefined. 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 Paul, yeah, what's your Venmo? Oh, wait, you use Cash App, don't you? Oh, okay, never mind on either of those accounts. You use Cash or Cash App? Okay. I'm going to tell you guys a little something about Cash App. Cash App is ghetto. Oh, get a real job and get yourself Venmo or PayPal, children. Sheesh. 3 is confusing, and I can understand your confusion, but, follow me here. Follow me here. The dots are hovering around in the middle of the grid, which is never a positive sign. I wish I could zoom up. Can I? Can I zoom up? Let's try. Hold on. Let me do this. Yo! I can zoom up. Santiago, it sounds like you're just coming up with an excuse to not be the best person you can be. All right, so if I zoom up, I can see that B is literally floating around in the middle of everything, and it looks like A is floating around in the middle of the street. So this is what I can do. You watching? Up 1, 2, 3. Are you with me? Over 1, 2 and a half. So I went up 3 over 2 and a half, which I would accept, but it looks sloppy. That's the same as 6 over 5. Now, if you're wondering, how did I simplify 3 over 2 and a half to 6 over 5? You should simplify fractions like we did over here. Okay. Now, that fraction, you might argue that it's simplified, but I'm here to tell you that an advanced math student like you and I should never have a decimal in a fraction. So if you do have a decimal in a fraction and say that decimal is 0.5, multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Just like here, we divided the top and the bottom by 5, or in the video, I divided the top and the bottom by 2. Here, I can multiply the top and the bottom by 2, and it still works. Remember, multiply and divide are the same thing. Dividing a fraction is the same as multiplying its reciprocal. They're the same exact type of thing. You were never taught that. I'm here to tell you they're the same.
All right, if I'm required to find the slope of a line connecting 2 points and I don't have a graph, I have to use what's called the slope formula, which is this guy right here. Now, before I use the slope formula, I'm going to label my points x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, and now I just plug them in. Y sub 2 is negative 2 minus y sub 1, which is 8, x sub 2, which is 7, minus x sub 1, which is negative 4. Negative 2 minus 8 is negative 10. 7 minus negative 4 is positive 11. And I end up with negative 10 over 11. Done.
Done. What a jerk. So, just a gentle reminder, and if you have scrap paper, notes, or whatever, try to work faster than me. The slope formula is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Thank you, Athena. I was about to scream at you in front of everybody, but she fixed herself. She said negative 8 minus negative 3. Ooh, a double negative. Where are we? English class, right? 2 minus 2. Negative 8. Oh, a double negative means positive. A double negative means a positive. So negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5 over 0. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. And that's what Athena said. But never, ever, 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 ever are you allowed to put an answer with 0 being the denominator. If you do that, boy, oh boy, well, I will be just so angry at you. So whenever 0 is on the bottom, you say undefined. What's the answer if 0 was on the top? What if this was 0 over negative 5? What would the answer then be? 0 is correct. 0 is correct, those of you. Now, fun fact. If I give you a slope formula type problem like this, and the slope formula type problem is, look at these 2 points, find the slope. If the x's are the same, you could stop and just say undefined. If the y's are the same, you could just stop and say 0. But that's not the case here. Only the x's are the same, and we could just not do any work and say undefined because the x's are the same. And that makes sense because if I have the point 2, negative 3 and 2, negative 8, you're going to have a dot on top of the other dot, which is going to be a vertical line. And last time I checked, up and down is undefined. Up and down is undefined. Amen. Because of Christmas, I added the amen to the end of the song. You already know this. This is the foundation of everything you learn in algebra. The foundation. Y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. When I die, and they sprinkle my ashes over the Schuylkill, right? I want someone to create a headstone, and I wanted to say, here lies. At the time, I'm expecting to be Dr. Nicholas Charles Perich II. Here lies Dr. Nicholas Charles Perich II. Y equals mx plus b. Either that or like devoted father, something like that. But I'll take y equals mx plus b. You may or may not have seen this guy before. That's point slope form. Slope intercept form is called slope intercept form because it gives you a slope and a y-intercept. Neat. That's what makes graphing so easy when it's like y equals 3x plus 5 because I know 3 is the slope and 5 is the y-intercept. Cool. However, point slope form looks a lot worse. And if you see point slope form, you might say, oh man, I don't want to do this. Now I have to distribute and add 5 to both sides. No. Point slope form is an equation that gives you a point and a slope. Or better yet, if you're given the point or the slope and teacher, me, says write an equation of a line going through that slope and that point, point slope form would be better. And teacher accepts answer in point slope form. So let me show you what I mean by that. All right, write an equation in point slope form of a line having the given slope that contains the given point, then graph the line. So point slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals slope times x minus x sub 1. Holy cow, Mr. Perich, did you memorize that? Yes. And so should you. M is the slope. Just like it always is, M is the slope. Because whenever you think of slope, you go, slope. The point, as usual, is x sub 1, y sub 1. So what I do is I say, oh, good, it gave me m equals 5. So that must be my slope. What's this? Well, that's x sub 1, and that's going to be y sub 1. Allow me now to write out point slope formula. And a lot of you might be like, oh, man, he's going to make us write it out again. Well, look, all of you have your cameras off, so I don't know what you're doing. And the law says I'm not allowed to ask you to turn your cameras off because God knows what nonsense is going on in your house. Fires, fights, cursing. I don't even want to know. But since I've labeled everything that needs to be labeled, y sub 1 is -2. So check this out. Peep this, gang. Y minus, and y sub 1 is -2. So good, Paul. I like what you wrote out so far. There's a double negative. I guess I'll probably fix that in a minute. M is 5, x minus 3. Now, Paul is correct in saying what he said. However, that makes me sad. Double negatives, just like in English, are bad in math too. Like if I were to be like, hey, you, stop fighting your friend. And you say, I ain't not fighting my friend. I'm going to be like, doesn't that mean you are fighting your friend? And then you'll be like, oh, man, roasted me again, Mr. Perich. Turn that double negative into a positive, you dunderhead. You dunderhead. I complimented Paul. Paul, you never make me sad. Let's do 6. Let's skip 5 because these are all the same type of problem. Oh, look, there's my slope. No. Oh, look, there's my y sub 1. Oh, look, there's my y sub 2. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times the parentheses x minus x sub 1 facts and logic. If I were to plug stuff in, y sub 1 is 6. Y minus 6 equals m, which is -4.25 x minus -4. Are you with me on that one? And what's the one thing that I need to change here? You can type it out quick or you can say it quick. What's the one thing I need to change before I'm happy with this answer? Addition is correct. Now, if you gave an answer that looked like this on a quiz, on a test, on a computer, whatever thing we use nowadays, the double negative good, the thing that we use nowadays, I would be perfectly fine with that. That is an equation. A lot of teachers might say, no, you really should change that into slope-intercept form, distribute that guy, and then add 6 to both sides. Absolutely not. No, I listen, I may be a dunderhead in some areas, but I know a thing or two about math, and math tell me that it's okay to have slope-intercept and point slope form. It's all good, as you guys would say when you're walking around in the streets. Now, what if I ask you to say, hey, you take 2 points and turn that into an equation in slope-intercept form? Do I have news for you? You're going to watch this video. Whether you watch it or not, I'm not 100% sure. But while you're watching this video, I'll put the link to this website in the chat so you can save this website probably. Well, hello. Today, I'm going to show you how to use a process called linear regression online. And what this process does is it gives us the equation of a line if I give you 2 or more points. It's called linear regression. The calculator we're going to use is this. Go to Google and type out NCTM line of best fit calculator. Line of best fit calculator, NCTM. I'm going to click, obviously, the first screen. And there it is. Now, let's just say I'm given a problem like this, where I ask you to find the line of best fit between these 2 points right here. I have 1, -5 and 3, -7. I want to find the equation of a line connecting those points. This is what I do. I go down here to where it says add points and I type in my 2 points. 1, -5, add point, and 3, -7, add point. Once you have at least 2 points typed out, you can click on the show the line of best fit, and it gives you the equation for the line of best fit. In this case, my equation for line of best fit is y equals -x minus 4, as seen right there in the picture. So the equation of a line connecting blah, 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 blah. I know it's backwards. Leave me alone. Now, what if, let's do this one and see what happens. I would like you to click on that link. And I want you to, okay, bye, Paul. I want you to click on that link and plug in these 2 points, 2, 3, and 4, -1. Paul, do you need the link again since you accidentally signed out or something happened? I'll just copy and paste it anyway.
I bookmarked it.
Okay. You're going to want to keep this link for sure. Okay. I use it quite a bit. For those of you who forgot what the points are, they're 2, 3, and 4, -1. You go down, add point to 3. The other one was 4, -1. Click on show line of best fit. And there you have it. Now, there's your answer. While your answer is there, I'm going to purposely do one that's not on paper, but I want you to see what I do. Okay. I'm just going to make random points that they're actually not random. If I want to do it again, click reset. But what do I want? I want 0, 1, and let's do 4, 2. Good, that's what I want. If I use those points, spaghettios, we have a fraction. Now, some of you might be like, I'm fine with fractions. I'm not dumb. I know that's a quarter, so that's 1/4. Well, let's say you get something like a much worse fraction, and you're wondering, how do I use this computer or use this website to figure out the exact slope? Because Mr. Perich would be mad at me if I write out 0.25 for a slope, because slope is rise over run. Zoom up. If I zoom up, my slope is up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 over 4. So there will be times where the decimal that you get, for slope is a decimal, or the thing that you get for slope is a decimal. So, you might need to, zoom in and do the whole actual rise over run process. How many problems do I have? Man, 40 minutes is not enough time to teach a geometry class. We're just going to make this a two-parter again. I'm just going to do this anyway, just for good measure, because you will see this in Algebra 2 a lot. You're probably not going to see this a whole lot in geometry. What if I didn't know that linreg existed? Okay, what if I didn't know that linreg existed? I just told you what point slope form is. Point slope form is your way of writing out an equation where I give you a point and a slope. There it is. If I said write an equation of a line going through those 2 points, and you're like, I don't remember the website. Okay, well, this is what you do. What you do is you find the slope the way you normally would. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. You feel me? X sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Thank you. Y sub 2 we called -1. Always the minus in the middle. I heard of Malcolm in the middle, but minus in the middle, that's a different story. Y sub 1. X sub 2 is 4. Always the minus in the middle. I've heard of monkey in the middle, but minus in the middle, that's another different story. And x sub 1 is 2. -1 minus 3 is -4 over 4 minus 2 is 2, and there's my slope of -2. Let's sit back and take inventory of what I have. You ready? I wrote up there in red point slope form. Point slope form says you can use me if you have a point and a slope. Guess what I just found out? The slope. Guess what I have? A point. I actually have 2 points. It doesn't matter. I have a point. So I'm going to move this down here, maybe? Nope. I'm going to use the equation up there, and I'm going to say y minus y sub 1. Okay, instead of y sub 1, I'm going to plug in 3. So y minus 3 equals -2, parentheses, x minus x sub 1. X minus x sub 1 we called 2. And that's my answer. Now you might be saying, oh, Mr. Perich, when we did the line of best fit, I got y equals negative 2x plus 7. That's not y equals negative 2x plus 7. Okay, you got me. Although that is the answer, allow me to take this one step further. That is the answer. Stop right there. But those of you who are over on the other side of the computer screaming and angry and getting ready to throw a desk saying, that's not what you said it would be. You said it would be y equals negative 2x plus 7. What if I did distributed property right there? If I did, I would get y equals negative, or I'm sorry, y minus 3 equals negative 2x plus 4. And if I add 3 to both sides, oh, come on, man. Oh, Mr. Perich, you was drawing this whole time. Mr. Perich, you was just drawing this whole time. You be a ski, Mr. Perich. Oh, Mr. Perich, this whole time you knew. This whole time you knew that even though we write it out in point slope form, you just get the slope intercept form anyway. You drawing, Mr. Perich. Oh, Mr. Perich, why is you drawing all the time? Why is you drawing? That, of course, is what you sound like when you talk. Part 2, parallel and perpendicular lines. You know what parallel lines mean, and you probably already knew this from Algebra 1. From Algebra 1, you learned that parallel lines have the same slope. They're going to have different y-intercepts, but the same slope. They will never intersect. That's the fun thing about parallel lines. Perpendicular lines, however, have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. Negative reciprocal. What's a negative reciprocal, you ask? Well, if I give you 2 over 3, the negative reciprocal of 2 over 3 is negative 3 over 2. Negative 3 over 2. In fact, let me open up just a blank screen and just give you a little reminder. If I have a line over here, so we'll say the line's slope, and then over here we'll say the upside down t, as one of you once called it, perpendicular slope. If my line has a slope of 2 over 3, then the perpendicular line is going to be negative reciprocal, which means you flip it 3 over 2 and make it the opposite, negative. So if the regular slope was already negative, you would flip it upside down and make it the opposite of a negative, which is a positive. And then most of you would look at that 4 over 1. By golly, I know what 4 over 1 is. It's just 4. It's just 4. And similarly, if I gave you a slope of negative 2, it's well, what is the negative reciprocal of negative 2? The negative reciprocal of negative 2. You're half right. You didn't flip it. Now watch me flip. Now watch me nay. Not 0 over 2. What if I reminded you that negative 2 is negative 2 over 1? 1 over 2. Correct, Jill. Good. 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 Determine whether WX and YZ are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. We're only going to do 1, maybe 2 of these. Okay. Let's do 7 because there's a green circle around it. I have to determine whether WX and YZ are parallel. So for problem 7, let's start out with WX. And if I'm going to determine if things are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, I care about the slope of WX. So I need the slope formula. Y sub 2 minus Y sub 1 over X sub 2 minus X sub 1. If I'm dealing with any questions so far, If I'm dealing with WX, then I need to go and label W and X. So I'm going to call W X sub 1, Y sub 1. And I'm going to call X X sub 2, Y sub 2. Y sub 2, you can barely tell, but I labeled 5. Minus. Always put the minus in the middle. That's funny. I've heard of monkey in the middle, but minus in the middle? X sub 2, I labeled 4. Minus X sub 1, I called 2. 1 over 2. Preguntas? So I found the slope of WX. Now I need to find the slope of, I'm not a senior, jerk. Now I have to find the slope of YZ and see what the slope is for that John right there. So I'm going to call that my new X sub 1, Y sub 1, and my blue X sub 2, Y sub 2. So M in this case is going to equal Y sub 2, which is, well, let me write out the formula. I always write out the formula because that's what a good teacher does. Y sub 2, as you can barely see, is -7. Then I put a minus. That's funny. I've heard of Malcolm in the middle, but minus in the middle. That's the first time you've ever heard that joke. On the bottom, I have X sub 2, which is 8, minus X sub 1, which is 4. That leaves me with -8 over 4, which is -2. So the question is, one of these had a slope of 1/2 versus, and the other one had a slope of -2. Yes or no in the chat. Are they? Ooh. I'm going to ask you the question. Are they parallel? I like this. Parallel, perpendicular, near. Bing, 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 bing. Bing, 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 by Elena. Bing, 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 and bing, 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 bing. Well, before I unleashed its fact that only 2 of you voted, 3 of you voted, I have 1/2 and I have -2. Parallel lines have the same slope. So are these parallel? No. Perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. Negative reciprocals. So a negative reciprocal is one is positive and the other one's negative. Check. One is then the other part of being a negative reciprocal is one is the flipped version of each other. I have 1/2 and I have 2. And 2 can be written as, oh, how can I rewrite 2 if I wanted to rewrite 2 and turn it into a fraction? 2 over 1. So is 1 over 2 and 2 over 1 flipped? Ah, and here come more votes. Is 1 over 2 and 2 over 1 flipped? And is 1 negative and 1 positive? I will give you 10 more seconds. And here come more. And here come more answers. And here come more. And here come more answers. And here come more answers. Mas answers. Well, end poll. And 5 out of 12 of you got it correct. So perpendicular. We won't do any more from that page. Tamiko used a coordinate plane to help her cut out patches for a quilt. Patches. Now that's the name. That's a good name for a cat. Patches. Her first cut is along the line y equals negative 2x plus 6. Her second cut will be perpendicular to the first and will pass through 3, 2. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the second cut. This is slope-intercept form. This is what we know. We know that her second cut is going to be perpendicular to that slope right there. So the slope we have, which I'm going to write over here, the slope we have is negative 2 or 2 over 1. Negative 2 over 1, which means the slope that we want has to be we want a perpendicular slope, don't we? So what's the slope? And perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. So what is the opposite and flipped version of negative 2 over 1? Opposite and flipped. 1 over 2 and 1 over 2. So I have 1 over 2x plus b. Well, poop on a stick. I don't have my full equation yet. I do know the slope. Ugh. I need to find the y-intercept. I wish there was a way that Mr. Perich taught us to find the y-intercept. There is. I may not have the y-intercept. What do I have? A point. And I'm going to label that point xy. Now, normally I label points x sub 1, y sub 1. True. But in this case, I'm labeling my point xy because I'm going to replace the xy in here. So y is going to become 2, and x is going to become 3. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 3. And I'm going to subtract 3 halves. And b is going to equal what? If I take 2 and 3 halves away. No, sir. Sorry. 2 minus 3 halves is going to be 1/2. So b is a half. So I'm going to take what I have here and replace that b with a half. And what I get for a final answer is y equals 1/2 x plus 1/2. Lit. A line segment has endpoints -2, 4, and B, which is -4, 2. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line that bisects this segment and is parallel. It's actually a whole lot easier. You ready? So I have A, which is -2, 4, which is up here. I have B, which is -4, 2, which is down here, right? And I draw that line. I have to find an equation in slope-intercept form for a line that bisects the segment. Oh, the segment, my fault, the segment. No! Ugh, I have to start over. So here's my coordinate plane. Here's A somewhere up here, -2, 4, A, and here's B, -4, 2. I actually wrote out B in the wrong spot, so maybe it's okay that I had to redo it. And I did it again. This is a line segment, so I don't want these ends there. I don't want that end there. I need to take a line that bisects it, which means cut it in half there, and is parallel to the line y equals -2x plus 5. So it's going to be parallel to something that looks like this. Okay? So how do I do that? Well, first off, I need that red point. How do I find that red point? Midpoint is when you take your points, take the x values, x sub 1 and x sub 2, add the x values divided by 2, take the y values and divide that by 2. It's literally the average. So our midpoint is going to be -2 if I label this x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2. It's going to be -2 plus -4 divided by 2, and 4 plus 2, which is 6 divided by 2. I don't know why I just did that. But what we get is -2 plus 2 divided by 2 is -3, and 6 over 2 is 3. So we have our midpoint, and our midpoint is -3, 3. It's got to be parallel to this line. What's the slope of a line parallel to that line there? Or what's the slope of a line parallel to that line right there? Hmm? What's the slope of a line parallel to that line right there? Hmm? Parallel lines have the same slope. So what's the slope of a line parallel to that line right here? Hmm? Who typed in the chat -2? I did, because you guys are slow. So we need an equation. So let's get rid of all of this, because I'm going to need a lot of space. We're going to need an equation with a slope of -2, but also goes through -3, 3. So what we have so far is y equals mx plus b. We need an equation with the slope of -2. Great. How about y equals -2x plus b? We also need an equation that goes through a specific point, and it's that point right there. So if that's an x value, and if that's a y value, I'm going to replace y with 3 equals -2 times -3 plus b. So I get 3 equals 6 plus b minus 6 minus 6. B equals -3. So far, I had y equals -2x plus b. I had b equals -3, put them all together, and y equals -2x minus 3. Not fun, not easy. But that's why I record all these things, so you guys can watch them later on to figure out what to do in case you run into them in the near future, which you may. So here's a fun fact. Think of any number, just write it out, or say it out, or type it out, or whatever. Any number. 3. What is the negative reciprocal of 3? Close.
-1/3.
-1/3. -1/3. What happens when you multiply those two numbers together?
Gonna get a -3/3 or -1.
Good. You will always get -3/3 in this case, which does turn into -1, like Santi said. And like she said, that's what she said. Good. Anytime you have negative reciprocals, you can multiply them together to get -1. So in this problem that we did way back here, when I asked you if these guys were parallel, perpendicular, or neither, I could have just multiplied these two together and said, what's half of -2? Well, half of -2 is -1, which means they're perpendicular. So that's a quick fix if you want to use that. And now I'm telling you, so it's a nice way of wrapping things up and putting a nice little bow on top of everything.